Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this satellite broadcast for the module Advertising and Public Relations. We will today just discuss a few matters regarding your upcoming examination on, I think it's May the 29th, I think, if I'm correct. Okay. We are dealing with advertising and public relations. I will be discussing the advertising section of this module, and Mr. Lucky Mawasha will be discussing the public relations module. Although we are splitting these two parts of the advertising of the marketing mix, we are splitting it now. It's important to remember that we are using an integrated approach to organizational communication. So we're splitting them, and then we're going to bring everything back together again in the integrated marketing communication mix. Just briefly about the exam, the paper it's 1 2-hour paper with longer and shorter questions. Sorry, we just have a technical problem here. If you just remain patient for 1 second. So I'm just waiting for my technical assistant. I think we're fine now. The paper is 1 2-hour paper of 60 marks that will include short questions and essay type questions. 2 sections again, one advertising, public relations. So if you studied advertising, do section A, and if you studied public relations, do section B. If you have studied advertising, you receive 3 questions, and you choose 2. The same for public relations, you receive 3 questions and you have to select or answer any 2. Alright, with regards to advertising, we also always need to start with a little bit of a definition. The advertising section of this module, you will be looking at chapters 8 and 9 in your prescribed book, Integrated Organizational Communication by Angelopoulos and Barker. We say for now, advertising is the persuasive and influential communication of messages to a specified segment of an audience by an identified advertiser who pays for unmodified messages to be delivered through the media. In your prescribed book, you will see that they provide you with a brief history of the development of advertising agencies over the past couple of centuries. So that's very important to just look at that, but it's also important to look at the evolution of advertising content. It evolved from the informational role to the creative role. Advertisements were regarded as informational, classified and unillustrated offers. Specified what was for it specified what was for sale, the price of it, and where and when one can find it. Since the advertisements during this time were merely informational, it was soon realized that the creative opportunities with these advertisements were limited. Here's just a little bit of an example of what it would look like. It's just written, no illustration whatsoever. Advertisements, it became apparent that advertisements were required to provide originality, creativity, and to appeal to audiences' emotions. Advertising content therefore evolved to take on a more entertaining approach. Just again, a little example there, playing on a more emotional approach. When last did anyone see an advertisement that read, "Men wouldn't look at me when I was skinny," promoting weight gain, and the one on the opposite side, again, weight loss, with a celebrity endorsement there. So playing on people's emotions using a more creative approach. The creative role of advertising content. Advertising messages evolved from being merely informational to include spectacular creativity and appeals that focused on human emotion. The focus was now on the big idea and the creative concept. You know about the big idea, you had exposure to that in the portfolio you did. Everything should be surrounded, or everything should be focused on the big idea or the brand message, the creative brand message. Creativity was therefore the focal point in creating advertising messages. Advertisers should keep in mind that the main aim of advertisements is to communicate brand messages. As I've just said, you will hear me talking about brand all the time. Everything should be focused on the brand. If branding does not take place during the advertising message communication process, the advertisement might as well be regarded as unsuccessful. Okay, moving on to roles of advertising. Advertisers prepare different types of advertisements for different types of audience segments. Different products, services, and causes furthermore require diverse advertising messages. This taken into consideration, it is apparent that advertising also plays roles in business and society. I just want us to quickly look at two important roles. Just briefly, the societal role. Advertising informs, persuades, and educates audience members regarding products, service, and ideas. It additionally mirrors fashion and design trends and adds to society's aesthetic sense. By providing images of the world we live in, advertising helps to shape an image of ourselves by providing the role models with which we can identify, which leads to the development of our own personalities and identities. The societal role of advertising can be regarded as both positive and negative. Moving on to the marketing role of advertising. Marketing is a process whereby an organization provides goods and services to consumers based on their identified needs and wants. Products are organized into product categories and presented to target audience segments. Advertising is one of the elements of the marketing, communication, or promotional mix and assists in the development of brands. From an integrated perspective, advertising functions in unison with other elements of the marketing communication mix in order to communicate a cohesive and integrated corporate brand of the organization. Okay, very importantly, now we are going to look at advertising's role in the overall marketing mix of the organization. So please refer to that section in your prescribed book. I think it is on pages 276 to 278. The most visible and publicly known element of the marketing communication mix, namely advertising, is daily revealed by the creative, exciting, rewarding, and challenging advertising industry. The challenge, though, lies in the integration of advertising marketing communication mix. We want to compare several definitions of integrated marketing communication. So please go to your prescribed book and look at all the various definitions that there are. Look at them critically and compare them and come up with the definition that you feel would work for you, or that you argue would be working the best. You have to look at the goals of integrated marketing communications, the importance of message integration, and the importance of the brand, that everything should be brand-centered, everything should be focused on the brand. As I've said, everything an organization does or does not do sends a brand message. Integrated communication thus emphasizes the need for coordination, harmonization, and integration of all forms of internal and external communication in any organization. Okay, again on roles of advertising and advertising and its role and society. The question whether advertising is good or bad for society has been addressed by advertising scholars, researchers, practitioners for a long time now, but no conclusion has been reached. So let us look at some continuing debates regarding several matters. The first debate we will be looking at is the demand creation debate. The questions we ask here are: does advertising cause demand creation? Does it unnecessarily drive consumers to feel a specific need or want for a specific product or service or cause? Are advertising messages powerful enough to create demand for products and services consumers don't need? What's important to remember here is that these are debates. There are arguments for this and arguments against that. So if you go through these sections in your prescribed book, you're welcome to think for yourself: do you agree with this opinion or do you disagree with that opinion? In your prescribed book, you'll see they give you a background on all of the opinions regarding this specific debate. Just to give you a little bit of an example there, it's by the Dean of the California Institute of Arts. It says, in persuading people to buy things they don't need with money they don't have in order to impress others who don't care, commercial design is probably the phoniest field of existence today. So is this true? Does advertising make us want stuff we do not need and we do not have the money for? This is just a quote from Mad Men. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the television series. It's about the advertising industry. Just a quote from there. It says, "I'm in charge of thinking of things before people know they need them." Moving on, persuasive advertising that plays on consumers' emotions, anxieties, and psychological needs and desires such as status, self-esteem, and attractiveness is regarded unacceptable in this regard. On the contrary, they say, advertising may create demand, but consumers will refuse to purchase the product if they do not feel a need for it. Just another example. You're not ready, you're young, you haven't been with the organization all that long, you're not quite sure of your position. Maybe in a few years when you're a little more established, but not yet. Of course, if you disagree, you can visit an official Rolex jeweler. So they are directly playing on status. Go to your Rolex store and then you will be more, your ability to be upwardly mobile would immediately be more reachable. The next debate we will be looking at is the shape versus mirror debate. The questions we ask here: does advertising shape or mirror social values? To which degree does advertising influence society and public opinion? It has been argued that advertising influences vulnerable groups such as children and young teenagers. Critics ascribe to advertising the role of creating social trends in dictating how people think and act. This, together with the non-stop media messages, creates desirable images which individuals try to pursue. This can influence members of society to believe that they should conform to the norm as established by images presented in advertising messages. Just an example there for you. It's asking, are you beach body ready? So here the norm would be that's what your body should be looking like, or that's what your body should like for you to go on the beach. Advertisers and creators of advertising messages defend themselves by explaining that they only mirror trends that are evident in society in order to establish a connection with their target audiences. Let's move on and look at the over-commercialization debate. Many critics argue that advertising encourages materialism and subsequently has an adverse effect on consumers' values and society in general. Advertising is furthermore blamed for creating a preoccupation with material things rather than encouraging intellectual or spiritual concerns. There's just a quote for you. Good advertising does not just circulate information, it penetrates the public mind with desire and belief. So it creates desire. It creates needs rather than merely showing how a product or service fulfills them, showing images of the good life and suggests that the acquisition of material possessions leads to happiness or joy, shows that material possessions are symbols of status like the Rolex watch, success and accomplishments, and will lead to greater social acceptance, popularity and sex appeal. There's just another example for you. It's Tom Ford's 15 Things Every Man Should Have. Again, it's playing on status. If you want to look at number 5 there, a good cologne that becomes your signature, a well-cut dark suit, a pair of black lace-up shoes, a smart blazer, a pair of dark denim jeans. Is this not advertising that creates demand? It's up to you. It's a debate. Lastly, I would like us to look at the untruthful or deceptive advertising debate. Consumers do not trust advertising messages for most types of products and rather rely on word of mouth from friends and family as a more truthful source of information. The fact that advertisers allow to use puffery and in their advertising messages complicate the issue of untruthfulness and deception in advertising. You are aware of puffery, sort of making stuff look nicer than they are, sort of, I don't know, exaggerating on the benefits that a specific product will offer. This is just an example for you. This is very, very interesting. For a better start in life, start cola earlier. How soon is too soon? This is so deceptive, saying that your little child should start drinking Coca-Cola or Coke at a young age. That sugar, this is just absolutely deceptive. Okay, that sort of rounds up our discussion with regards to advertising and several debates around advertising. I'm now going to move on to Chapter 9. So Chapter 9 deals more with advertising management and the advertising agency. All right, looking at the advertising agency. Advertising clients select advertising agencies based on several factors, products and needs. There are types of agencies, and the advertising can appoint different type of independent advertising agencies to fulfill different needs. Let's quickly look at some of these agencies. The full service agency. The full service agency has 4 major staff functions, namely account management, creative services, media planning and buying, and research. So as the name suggests, it's full service. All the needs of the specific client can be met within this agency. So, we move now on to specialized agencies. Numerous advertising agencies do not act as a full service agency, but instead specialized in certain areas, for instance, creative or media buying, and appealing to a specific target audience or industry. Let's look at the following. Briefly, the industry focus agency, you will see there, this specific ad is for more pharmaceutical products, clinical trials. An industry-focused agency concentrate on certain fields or industries such as agriculture, medicine, and pharmaceuticals. Minority agencies, they more or less function in a similar way as your full-service agency, but focus on an ethnic group in which they specialize in terms of media selection and communication. Looking at creative boutique, A creative boutique is usually a relatively small agency that concentrates exclusively on achieving the creative execution of the client's communication. It's writers and artists, and this type of agency focuses entirely on the idea and the creative product. Media buying services. These services consist of media experts that acquire media space at the lowest possible rates. For instance, once the advertisements has been created by a creative boutique, the advertiser will use a media buying service to plan or purchase media space. And this is a very specialized skill. People that work in the media buying industry work there for years and are very experienced and skilled. There's just an example of such an agency. DAA, Media Specialist Business Sales Media Buying Agency. Vendors assist advertisers. Vendors assist advertisers, advertising agencies, and media, and are called freelancers, consultants, and self-employed professionals. They have a variety of their own clients and do not work exclusively for one advertising agency. Virtual agency operates in the same way as a freelancer. Modern technology plays a significant role in the trend towards abandoning conventional office space. All right, moving on, it's very important to look at media planning and selection. Let's look at a brief definition. Media planning is a development of a specific and detailed process of reaching the right number of appropriate people, the right number of times, in the right environment, at minimum cost to achieve the advertised brand's marketing objectives. It is an analysis of the market situation, gives a background on how an organization has been performing against its competitors. It provides information about the details of the problem and what possibilities might lead to its solution. It's very important to look at media selection. There are four major things that needs to be done. An accurate estimate of how to draw on the best media available to convey the message to the right target audience. We call that media planning. Buying media space and time to convey the advertising message, media buying, as we spoke about. Selling space and time to the advertiser, selling it to the advertising client, and then researching the relationship between consumers, media, and brands. Research is also always important when it comes to media planning. Media planners consider four primary elements that are central to the media planning process. The four elements are known as the media square. You will find that in your prescribed book on pages 309 to 310, I think. The four elements are known as the media square, which it is frequency, reach, frequency, impact, and time. Let's look at these in detail. There's the media square. Firstly, let us look at reach. Reach is the percentage of the target population that is exposed at least once to the advertiser's message during a specific time frame. It refers to the total number of people exposed to a message. The greater the reach of the medium, the greater the number of people who will receive the message via the specified medium. Frequency refers to the number of times on average that a person who is part of the target market is supposed to have been and has actually been exposed to the advertiser's message. For example, some people may drive past a billboard every weekday on their way to work. The greater the frequency, the more exposure a recipient has to the message. And we distinguish between two types of frequency. The frequency of insertion refers to the number of times that an advertisement appears in a specific media. And then frequency of exposure. It refers to the number of times that a consumer is exposed to the advertisement in the media. Let us look at impact. We do not necessarily, we speak of impact of the media as well as the impact of the message. Impact refers to the strength of a medium in conveying the message sent and the effect disseminating the message to the desired audience effectively. This refers, as I've said, this refers not only to the medium selected, but also to the message sent. An excellent message will have a greater impact than one that is merely mediocre. Lastly, looking at time or continuity, this refers to the proposed duration of an advertising campaign or the period over which the stated objectives of the campaign will be realized or maintained. Advertisements are scheduled to appear in the media so that they can achieve the maximum effect. Okay, my colleague Mr. Lucky Mawasha will be joining us now to discuss the section on public relations. Just from my side, I would like to say thank you for joining us and good luck for the examination. Please read every question very carefully and make sure you answer the question as asked. And I will look at your questions now. I'm handing over now. Thank you. Good luck. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, Therese. Good afternoon to all our students. Thank you so much for joining us. I'll be taking you through the public relations section, and this is to assist you in preparation of your exam. We'll be looking at concepts that are basically more important and that you should more or less focus on, right? My name is Lucky Mawasha. I'll start off with a quote which says, "An exam is not only a test of your academic knowledge, it is also a test of your calmness, stability, and courage." So you need to be very calm. Be sure that you are prepared. Make sure that you are prepared. Know your work. And don't panic, because panicking would really lead you to forgetting and not answering or performing to your full ability. So make sure that you understand what an exam is. Prepare in time. Ask questions if you can, and you're welcome to send us an email at any time so that we can assist if you don't understand certain concepts. Look at your past question papers. Look at your past assignments as well as your feedback on those assignments. As I said, in preparation for exam, we'll look at the following very important concepts or chapters that you need to concentrate on. We'll basically look at, first we'll look at the definition of public relations, and then we'll go to the components within the preset definition, and then we'll look at the functions of public relations. We'll look at the approaches of public relations. We'll look at relationship theory as proposed by Lidingham, 2003. We'll also look at media and public relations for internal publics. We'll look at online public relations and online public relations too. In looking at the definition of public relations, we must understand that public relations has progressed from one specific point to another, where now public relations sees stakeholders as the main or the crux of the role. Now the organization depends on the external publics in order to achieve their objectives and their goals. So there was a shift from the actual public relations definition to a definition that was conceptualized by PRISA, which took the new advances or took the new role of public relations into account. So this definition looked at different aspects and tried to unfold them in terms of what the new definition speaks to. So public relations is management through communication of perceptions and strategic relationships between an organization and its internal and external publics. So we'll unfold all the different components and try to explain what it now means, because the new PRASA definition takes a different approach, or a holistic approach in looking at the role of public relations. So the management component means that public relations fulfills a facilitating role, meaning that in the past, public relations was believed to be just a disseminating of information to the publics, even though the publics may not understand the information or what the information is about. It was believed that all information that from the organization is supposed to be given or to be disseminated to publics, and this did not see any other fulfilled role that public relations would play. And in the current role that public relations play, a public relations officer must be a social activist for the organization. They must be out there. They must know what is happening in the ground in terms of the external publics. They must explain the company policy to the external publics and make sure that those policies do not exert any negative outcome on the external publics, and they must also try to explain the perspective of the external publics to the organization. So when these rules or these policies are defined, they can consider the external public's needs and wants, and within their social context, in order for the company to fulfill its role effectively. Through communication, this is how this role is facilitated and is fulfilled. It's through communication. It can be different activities, communication activities, but it has to be through communication, because that's the crux of everything else in the business stance. And then perceptions and strategic relationship. This component speaks to organizations, depends on its stakeholders and their perception, and on its own relationship with them. As I said, entirely, the organization now depends on the external stakeholders in order for them to coexist and continuously exist. Remember, the business space has or landscape has changed, and you have to, if you have clients or you have external publics, you have to maintain a beneficial relationship with them so that the business can survive through whatever economical climate that might be. If you have those loyal customers, they will stay with you and be able to sustain your business, your business, throughout every season of the business landscape. And those new clients that you make or you get along the way might leave you, in those times, and those that are loyal will not leave you. So your operations or your coexisting depends on your perception, strategical relationship with your public, and between an organization and its stakeholders. The audience are now the stakeholders, because when we the past public relations definition looked at the publics as people that were passive, people that did not scrutinize any messages that were sent to them. Now the new definition realized that no, the audience are active people, they're interdependent, entities. They have a specific relationship with the organization, and there's a lot of organizations out there, and people are now globally exposed to different practices, to different organizations that can fulfill the same role that your organization is fulfilling. So it is very important to understand that my audience are not just people that are sitting there and receiving my messages, but they actively receive, they actively process the messages, and they have an option, to look at other organizations. But what do I do in order for me to make sure that they continue supporting me as a business, and all of those things? So these are the components that we look into when we speak of the new public relations PRISA definition. And then we'll move on and look at public relations functions, So public relations, as I said, it was just mainstream. It was about disseminating information to people. But now there are different roles or functions that public relations can or will have to fulfill. So we'll look at the first role, which is communication and interpretation. So public relations as a communication and interpretation. This function involves the responsibility of understanding and meeting the needs of the organization, stakeholders, and society. It also translates the organization's value, aims, image, and action to its stakeholders, and in turn, understanding and communicating the stakeholders' needs, expectations, motives, and values to the organization. And in order for you to achieve this, you need to conduct your research, because you must know your publics, you must know your stakeholders. What do they need? What is their cultural context? What is their social context? What influences them? Who are the leaders within those communities, so that you can reach those people in order to help, in order to assist you in getting those publics or stakeholders or societies on your side. So if you don't understand, or if you don't know your publics, then you will be in trouble. You have to know them, you have to know their needs, you have to know their language, you have to know their cultural context. So when you contextualize messages for them as an organization and formulating that relationship, beneficial relationship, you know how to approach those different societies or your specified stakeholders and society. And then we'll move on to the second function, which is the managing communication of the organization. So PR or public relations is no longer about excessively trying to create a positive image about an organization, but now it involves managing of the entire communication. It has gone into an integrated phase. So managing of communications within an organization based on PR should all be planned over or planned around communication. So everything that you execute must look at communication as the crux. So this involves the overall planning based on research. Research is very important, formative research, in-depth research, and execution of PR management programs, which are specifically focused on the evaluation of an organization's stakeholders and the optimization of its relationship with them. So the basic and most importantly, research is very important. And as we say that you are building relationships and maintaining them, they must be beneficial. They must be able we must both at the end stick be able to benefit from this relationship. I must feel that this relationship is strongly considered. I'm strongly considered within this relationship in whatever the other person is doing. That's the role. That's what happens when we are in that public relations relationship, and this is the function. So communication must help in all these spaces, communicating with your stakeholders, finding out different things, finding out, doing your surveys when you're about to launch or implement new policies. Then you ask your stakeholders, what do you think? You look at the environment, you look at how this will affect them. And most of the time you must look at the positive alignment. This, whatever I'm doing, must affect them positively, and it must look as if it's beyond what is expected. We are concerning this we're considering our publics or the society we exist within more than anything, more than our own needs. So public relations is no longer about the organization, but the publics it's its target or the society that they exist within. And then we'll look at the systems approach. When you look at the systems approach, it looks at organization depends on the environment for everything they need to survive. If they want to survive and prosper, all organizations must accept the public responsibility imposed by an increasing interdependent society, communicate despite multiple barriers with publics that are often distant and diverse, and achieve integration into communities that they were created to serve them. The purpose of public relations is to help organizations to adjust and adapt to their environment. So the system approach looks at a system where organization must be able to survive within the context of the society that they exist within. So if the organization does not consider the society, does not look at different aspects, as I've said, the cultural, the influencers, the leaders that lead within those communities, then they won't be able to survive, because as I said, that you need to survive and adapt to whichever environment that you exist in order for you to be accepted and supported continuously. So the system theory looks at this perspective to say that we are here, you as a company, you must depend, because you as a company, you must depend on your environment, otherwise you will not get far. So make sure that through communication, you try and reach as many people as you can, show consent, whatever issues that the communities may be maybe troubling the community. Sorry, you might use those. You must show consent. You must get into the community and ask and try to bring some solutions. Try to bring some help. Even if you bring other organizations on board, try to do that and try to create that relationship. Show them that you are concerned, because at the end of the day, this is for your business and you meeting your objectives and your goals. We'll also look at a value-driven approach. The value-driven approach states that as you begin your research where to go, you firstly identify your values. So I'm giving you an example here to just try and conceptualize the value approach. So this is an example that I'm giving. So it speaks to you when you're planning a trip to go away and go visit somewhere and so forth. So obviously, when you want to plan a trip, you'll firstly do your research. You'll have a place in mind. But as you have that place in mind, then you will do your research to identify is this aligned to my values. So when you speak or when you about to go on a trip, you look at your values. Will look at safety. Number one, you look at fun. You look at accessibility to different things. You look at prices and so forth, right? And then those core values will establish the framework within which you will gather, research, plan your trip, and go on your trip and finally evaluate its success. Meaning, an organization says its values, the opinion of its employees. It would not make any sense for the organization to conduct research that does not take into account their employees' opinions. This would make even less sense to launch a plan that, in the pursuit of some other short-term gain, winds up showing that the organization is insensitive to employees' concerns. So the organization must have, organizations always will have to uphold to certain values, or will have certain values that they represent. And as they have those values must accommodate their employees. Because remember, if your employees are satisfied with their communication, and then this would lead to job satisfaction, and if your employees are considered within these values, different cultures, different beliefs, and your employees are considered within these values, they would feel that you put them first as an organization and these values, and they would be loyal to you as an organization, and they will exert some kind of positivity when it comes to the external audience. Because remember, the external audience always look upon the internal audiences, to make sense of an organization. So if we don't show unity, if our employees are not happy with their communication, if their employees are not happy in general, then that would show evidently outside, and as it shows evidently outside, it will show that we at a risk of losing our external target audience, or at a risk of losing those audience that we have established a relationship with, which could help us coexist or exist for the next 10 years or 20 years. So this looks at the values, and the values must accommodate or the values must be aligned around your employees so that they can be happy and help the organization reach its objectives. Then we'll look at the relationship theory as proposed by Ledingham, 2003. Ledingham believes that the appropriate domain of public relation is the relationship. So the relationship theory, as we have spoken, that beneficial relationships are now the central, or are now crux for public relations. So he looks at this and further conceptualize or further evidently shows us that relationships are really important besides anything else when it comes to public relations. Furthermore, he suggests that the organization should not only rely on communication, but also on organizational and public behavior. So behavior plays an important role, not only communication. So through research, you look at the behavior. Is the behavior aligned to our public? Is the behavior exerting some form of negativity? Is the behavior this way? What is our public's behavior? And then align our relationship component around that, or relationship development around that, so that we can be beneficial, we can have a mutual relationship with our external audience. Based on his research, Ledingham proposed axioms of organization, public relations. So the axioms are formed around relationships, what relationships should be. So he looked at different components. He said the relationship is important, but we must not only rely on communication, as we have said in the definition, but also look at the behavior of the organization and the behavior of the public, and look what each exerts on each other, so that we can, in order for us to reach a state where we get to have that beneficial mutual relationship that will be will be positive to both of us. So these axioms are as follows. The relationship should be transactional. It should be goal-oriented, involves communication, dynamic. They change over time, are driven by perceived needs and wants of interacting organizations and publics, affected by relational history, the nature of transaction, the frequency of exchange, and reciprocity. etc. You can see more on page 232. So transaction meaning that we both must get to a point where we are satisfied, within this process, and goal oriented. So we look at the relationship, both of us. Even though we're getting that mutual beneficial relationship development, but we are all trying to get at a goal. So my public wants to access a service or product from me, and I want to facilitate profits back into my organization and get my product and service out there, and basically be the only one that is preferred by my public. So this is our goals, and we all have different goals. So in this relationship, we must take into consideration different goals that might be at play, and try to assimilate within those. And their dynamics, obviously, relationship change over time with growth, with the adaptation of different things, with technology and other things that may come to play, economy, globalization. So we must, as a business, we must make sure that we are facilitating those relationships within research and looking at the change that might happen. So we must not formulate these relationships or continue this relationship from an ignorant position. We must also look at what is look at the social context of what is within that community. What is the technological landscape? What is happening globalization? What are the other companies doing? So that we can formulate those relationships and look at the evolution of those relationships. We'll now move on to media and public relations. We look at media for internal publics, print media. So this is also important, understanding what media is used within, because we are trying to. Public relations is not only about our external publics, but we also look at our internal publics. As I said, that if our internal publics are happy, then it'll show outside, And as I said, that most of our external publics or customers, stakeholders, society look or ask for direction from our internal public. So our internal public must be able to know what is happening. They must be happy, and they must understand certain policies that are implemented, and they must be considered in whatever decision we make within the organization. So these are the printed medias. It's formal organizational documents. Those are newsletters, magazines. So some companies will use magazines, newsletters to update and show achievements in terms of their internal staff or what their company is doing, so that when the internal staff are asked, or when the internal staff are asked by external public, they know what is happening within the organization. It looks very bad if you work for an organization and you are asked about a certain product and you are clueless about that. It looks very bad as an organization, because if you're an internal public or you're an employee for an organization, you represent the organization and you're expected to know everything that goes on, even if it's not specifically aligned to your role. And then supplemental publications, which are pamphlets, brochures, manuals, and books. We also have written memorandums and reports, training and job instructions. We have letters, reprinted speeches, position papers, and background information. And then we have bulletin boards. So if we're launching anything within the company, if we want to teach our staff, train them, we'll use different internal printed media to facilitate those. Or facilitate those programs, or let our staff members know about them. And then we'll move to images and words. So some organizations will use the following: closed circuit television, which is the CCTV. The CCTV would be a camera that would be used, to communicate to employees across the world. So that television would be in each company that we own around the country, and when we have meetings, we'd be able to cross live to each of these different offices that we might have, because we must realize that most of our companies now are global, and some companies from overseas are coming to different parts, are coming to South Africa, different parts where they exist and they want to run their business. So the closed circuit television makes it easier to reach all the different employees across all the different companies that we have, and in real time, and everybody can be informed and everybody can know what is happening within a company. And then we'll have video or teleconference. We'll have satellite broadcast, which are provided by DSTV or Global Access. And we'll have display and exhibitions, and we'll have storytelling. So display and exhibitions, we'll have displays around our companies, and exhibitions sometimes, like on your wellness days, or when you are about to implement a new strategy, you'll have your exhibition where you demonstrate, and whoever's in public relations speaks to the new marketing or the new implementation of the brand, or whatsoever that might be, and to explain to our internal publics, so that they can understand and know the crux of why we are rebranding. And then storytelling as well, you use, because most of the time storytelling was used back in the days in our African context, at our homes with our grandmothers. They would tell us stories of things that have happened a long time ago, and we used to enjoy those. So companies have seen that as a way of educating their staff members, especially, as I've said, if they're rebranding, especially if there's conflict, especially if there's negative publicity around the organization, especially, and also in terms of a crisis. So they look at storytelling and educating, trying to get their employees to understand, and also to get their trust back and all of that. So they use storytelling as a way of educating them. And then we'll move on to electronic media, where we look at email and we look at the internal or intranet, right? So those are very important as well in getting and communicating, facilitating different processes within our organization. So these electronic medias are used, and they're important, and that's where information by all staff will be accessed. We'll now move on to online public relations. Online public relation is defined as traditional public relations, but is conducted via the internet and online services in a strategical manner. So it's the same as the traditional public relations. The only difference is that this is conducted on the internet or online, and in the same way it involves strategy, strategic manner in how you should reach your different publics, so it is the same with the traditional. It's just this one is conducted via the internet or online. This can reduce barriers between an organization and its external and internal publics, as we say that with technology you can reach people who are very far from you in real time, and you can get quick responses. So this plays that facet. Online or digital refers to media such as the internet, the World Wide Web, and commercial online services, and it includes tools like websites, SMSs, blogging, social networks, and the World Wide Web. So these are supporting tools that you can use. So we'll look at the difference between the traditional paradigm of online publications and the new online trend. Individual documents with text, and then online is components document with integrated text, pictures, and videos. Isolated items which are linear, universal linking to create dynamic documents, generate interest service to broad audience, special interest services aimed at specific target audience, subscription only pricing, advertiser and sponsor subsidies, hard copy information, internet libraries with data information, rich news groups and mailing lists where users can read files and explore the World Wide Web. And then we'll look at online publications advantages and disadvantages. The advantages are that it allows for timely mass media publishing, enhances communication with journalists, allows the sending of a message to target audience, helps to keep track of what has been said in the media through online clipping services, create a 24-hour presence, provides searchable information. And then when we look at the disadvantages, it's not a complete PR strategy, but a phase of an overall PR strategy. Will not replace paper, a phone call, traditional mail, or fax, or a visit. Cannot reach everyone because not everyone is connected. Can be complicated, difficult to use, and hard to understand. And user must be literate. Can initially be expensive in terms of the startup costs. So that's why it is important to understand that you have to integrate your your traditional and your online public relations. We'll look at online public relations tools. There are different online public relations tools that you can access or you have to know about. You have to know the strategy, you have to know what it is and what it does, right? So we'll look at a few. We'll start with the first one, online promotion, which is part of a website maintenance. We'll look at online relationship networking, which is a contact opportunity on the internet. Look at online customer support, online support center to assist customers to build loyalty. Online public affairs and community relations to track and influence governmental and community activities. Online media relations, electronic distribution of news release and email responses to report inquiries. We'll look at online events, communicate the organization's message through a range of activities. Online banner ads can be used as a target online banner campaign. Intranet and extranet, which is intranet is used to inform the internal target audience about corporate information. Extranet is similar to the intranet but open to third parties. And then go to visual social networks, social connectivity through visual and digital media. To name a few, you can see you can see page 368 to 373. So you must know what these online tools are. You must know their strategy as well. But due to time constraints, we cannot go into the strategies, but you can access this on your page and on page 368 and 378. That was all from my side for this presentation. Thank you so much for joining us, and if you have any questions you can send us an email or you can post them on my UNISA and we'll gladly respond. And yeah, good luck for the exam and all the best, and I hope that everybody does well, and yeah, even the sky's not the limit. So with all in closing, this is a quote that I would leave you with. It says, sometimes it takes an overwhelming breakdown to have an undeniable breakthrough. So this is all from me. Thank you so much for joining us and have a good day.